The Gospel for today comes from John's Gospel, chapter 15, the first 8 verses. Jesus said, "I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine grower. He removes every branch in me that bears no fruit. Every branch that bears fruit, he prunes to make it bear more fruit. You have already been cleansed by the word that I have spoken to you. Abide in me as I abide in you. Just as the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who abide in me and I in them bear much fruit, because apart from me you can do nothing. Whoever does not abide in me is thrown away like a branch and withers. Such branches are gathered, thrown into the fire, and burned. If you abide in me and my words abide in you, ask for whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. My Father is glorified by this, that you bear much fruit and become my disciples." I don't imagine that I'm the only person who's spent too much time thinking in my life that I'm not quite good enough. My competitive streak means that I want to do things really well, and I want anything that I'm involved with to be as good as it can be. That means I have high expectations of my colleagues, my family, and my friends, which can make life harder for them. I know I don't like it when I feel the weight of other people's expectations on me, and yet I can't help loading expectations onto those around me. Now, you'll say, surely all that really matters is that we do our best. But there's a voice in my head saying, was that really the best you could do? I can think of 2 ways of understanding what Jesus was saying in that passage from John's Gospel. The first concentrates on whoever does not abide in me is thrown away and withers. Such branches are gathered, thrown into the fire, and burned. I can hear that as saying, if you are not good enough, then Jesus will add you to the pile of failures and get rid of you. That interpretation comes to me from a part of me that focuses on what it means to abide in Christ as a constant demand to do better, of hearing voices saying, we ought to do something about that, and we should do more of what they are doing about the other, and of always looking at how far there is to go rather than how far we've come. I know, though, that when Jesus met and talked with all sorts of people, he didn't write anyone off because they weren't good enough. He urged people to love God, to love one another, and to follow him. So there is a different way of hearing what Jesus said in these verses. And it starts from, as the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love. And those who abide in me and I in them bear much fruit, because apart from me you can do nothing. When I pray, there are times that my mind wanders. I've been told that the thing to do is to notice what I've been thinking about, and if it's important, I can decide to go back later on and give it some more attention. And if it's not important, then forget about it. But then to refocus my thoughts on Jesus. coming back to Jesus whenever we've done or said something we shouldn't is what matters. Whatever I'm thinking or feeling, I don't need to let it come between him and me. However stubborn or ashamed or angry or inadequate I feel at that moment. And I want to hear what Jesus says about pruning as a promise rather than a threat. When I prune the roses in my garden, it's to make the bush grow more vigorously and to flower more prolifically. The promise of Jesus is that if we stick with him, if we keep coming back when we drift off, if we abide in him, then steadily he will prune away the parts of our lives that are unproductive and unhelpful and not part of being with him. And being good enough is not part of what Jesus asks from me. He wants us to know that he loves us for who we are. And he wants us to find security and the joy that comes from knowing that we're loved by him, so that we can love one another in the same way. And any fruit that my life bears will come not from my striving to be better, but from his love working in me.